Welcome back to Quick Bits. This week I covered the new filings in the Gabby Petito Bryan Laundrie case between her parents and his parents that's currently going on in Florida. I covered the hearing for Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the Armour and the Rust case. That is getting ready to go to trial this week. Plus, Donna Adelson was back in court. And on the podcast, I covered the ongoing insurance litigation with Amber Heard. It's a lot to cram into this week's Quick Bits, but I'm going to do it. I'm legal analyst Emily D. Baker. This is the Quick Bits, where I break down just the main points of the pop culture and entertainment cases I'm currently covering on YouTube and the Emily Show podcast. Let's get into it. Starting with the Emily Show podcast, this week I covered the appeal that's going on with Amber Heard and one of her insurance companies, New York Marine. This case I covered quite a lot as it was going on. New York Marine saying that they provided attorneys for Amber Heard, but then the other attorneys that were hired by the other insurance company kind of pushed her attorneys out of the way. So they withdrew representation with their attorneys ahead of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial. And they were asking the court to decide whether or not they were required to pay any of the settlement amount that Amber Heard settled for with Johnny Depp after that case went up on appeal. Now the case is on appeal where Amber Heard is saying that the court erred in determining that the insurance company didn't do anything wrong, and they are fighting over whether or not the insurance company owed Amber Heard independent counsel, and they are arguing a very kind of nuanced choice of law provision there. But that litigation is ongoing over whether the insurance companies owe Amber Heard money because they should have been paying for lawyers for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Her lawyers were paid by another insurance company, but in these filings, it's alleged that there was not money paid by her, but there was money outside of insurance that was required for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard litigation. So we'll see what happens in the appellate court and whether they agree with Amber Heard or New York Marine and who's going to pay for these lawyers anyway. Then covering court hearings this week, Donna Adelson was back in court for a real quick trial setting. The prosecution made it clear that Donna Adelson will not be offered a plea deal of any kind, and this case will go to trial in September 2024. So put that on the calendar. We might not see too many court dates between now and then because the attorneys are moving along with discovery and they have some court hearings in the summer running up to that trial date. But we might not hear much of this case ahead of like July when they start getting back into court to get ready for trial. We also know that the Bryan Kohberger case in Idaho is going to be back in court at the end of this month for arguments over DNA, for hopefully a trial date setting, and then deadline settings for motions and discovery. So hopefully we will know what the trial date will be in that case, but it's likely it will be summer of 2025. Speaking of Idaho, I also covered some interesting responses in the TikTok psychic defamation case that is still ongoing in federal court in Idaho. Those filings are special, and the fight over whether or not this case will be settled on summary judgment, meaning the court will determine whether the TikTok psychic is liable or not, is ongoing. I'm really interested in what the court is going to rule there because the evidence so far is pointing in favor of that summary judgment motion being granted and that case going to trial on damages only. And then in Florida, the litigation between Gabby Petito's family and Bryan Laundrie's family is ongoing, also at the summary judgment stage. Summary judgment is where the court can decide matters of law, which sometimes can either resolve a case entirely, resolve some of the causes of action in a case, resolve liability of a case, but not damages. These are very impactful motions, and there will be a court hearing at some point in that case ahead of the May trial date to determine these summary judgment motions. But there are strong arguments by attorney Stephen Bertolino for him being removed from the case, and it will be very interesting to see what the court does as to whether or not, as a matter of law, the intentional infliction of emotional distress causes of action can go forward against attorney Stephen Bertolino. A little bit of a harder argument for the Laundries, but remember, in this civil case, the Petito family is facing the uphill battle. They are suing for intentional infliction of emotional distress in a way that that law has not been used before. So they are the ones that are really fighting the uphill battle on the law. But we learned quite a lot because all of the depositions of the Petitos and the Laundries have been filed with the court, and there's a lot of new information coming out of those court filings. And that's a case that I will be following when it goes to trial in May. This week, I will be following along with the beginning of the Hannah Gutierrez retrial, and there are lots more trials to come. So be sure you download the Law Nerd app to stay in the loop, because it is going to be busy between now and May with quite a lot of trials on the docket. So with all of that, this has been the Quick Bits, and I will see you in the next one. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.